Let's talk about testing our JiGui library. Hello everyone, this is Ali Reza. Welcome to the Mentor Code Lab. Normally, when you are developing a library, you don't have a direct way of testing the functionality in game. It's correct that you can write some unit tests, but unfortunately, unit tests are not as helpful as some people may think when it comes to Minecraft modding and its API. The reason is that normally when you want to do unit tests, you want to test the mechanics inside your own API and make sure that the mechanics internally are working. In those situations, you are writing your API from 0 to 100 without any deep dependency into a third-party application. However, when it comes to Minecraft, lots of things are not possible during unit tests. For example, you can't test how the GUI is showing up inside the world. Yes, if you want to, you can test that a provided block entity shouldn't be null. But wait, no, you can't, because the block entity type will be registered during run time. I think Fabric API had provided some testing abilities, but in my opinion, it's easier to have a test project that is developed solely only for testing your libraries. Because of that, I added this test mod. This is a normal mod, and as you see, it has its own build.gradle, and it's reading the versions based on my framework and the folder structure. Again, it's just a normal mod with its own repositories, with its own dependencies. And as you see, I'm adding dependencies to my libraries. Also, I'm adding dependency to the mod menu badges. Without mod menu, it doesn't make any sense, by the way. And then the energy API, and the rest is history. And as you see, I don't even have a publishing task because, well, this is a test mod. I don't want to publish or build anything. This will be used to run the game and add functionalities as a unit test, but in a real mod to see if things works. For example, if I want to make sure that my registry is working, right now I have this mod blocks. As any normal mod, I'm starting to register some blocks here. And if I run the game and I see my blocks being registered, then I know that it's okay. Now, here's a question. Is it a big deal that we can't do a unit test? Honestly, no, because in unit testing, you have to write a code to do the testing, and then you need to run the unit test. Now, guess what? Writing a unit test is not even as simple as writing a block and registering a block and having this test platform, because we will develop this test platform once. We will only add the folder and add the structure for registering only once. After that, we just add the functionalities on top of what we need. For example, maybe we will add a block and a block entity, and then we will do something about tick logic, for example. In unit test, you have to write your test mimicking the real world, and it needs some boilerplate code. Here, you need some boilerplate code. The difference is that in unit tests, sometimes you need to repeat that boilerplate code time and time and time again and again. But here, you just write your boilerplate once and then get done with it. Even better, if you have your own mod template generator, be my guest. It will be even easier. In unit test, you need to run the test, and it's not immediate execution. It will take time. And here, you just run the game and play the game maybe for a second or two, or I don't know, maybe 30 seconds to check the functionality. And if it's working, then you got your test back and running. So what did I do behind the scene is that I did add the boilerplate. Right now, this is a functional mod that has 9 blocks for testing GUI stuff, corresponding to 9 block entities with 9 screens and screen handlers, each for one block and block entity. So if I run the game right now, all you will see is that inside the GUI1, I have this code to draw a texture. And let's stop the game actually. It did fail. Why did you fail? I added a dependency. So let's refresh the Gradle and I will come back when it's done. Okay, let's run the game in debug mode. Now keep in mind, because we are working on the GUI, and graphical stuff, normally we would use hot swap because we are not adding any new attribute to the class or a method to the class. We are just adding content to the method bodies. If that's the case, you can just use the hot swap in debug mode and see the result faster. It's really much faster than closing the game, rerunning the game. The speed is actually comparable to a unit test in that way. Let's wait so that the game comes up and then we will talk. Okay, let's go into the game and see what we have so far. Now this is the block, and you see that I did make textures, but this is 64 by 64 pixels, and because of that it may not show up properly in UI because it's a text and a number. However, I added them, so this is 1, this is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And now if I right click, you see that my GUI is actually opening up. Now provided I'm not drawing anything other than the UI, and if I add the number 2 here and I open it, I'm not drawing anything. Okay, it's just an empty screen renderer. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So right now I have 9 blocks because I want to make sure that I can test anything I want in any way I want. Now, here is a thing that you may notice. I have to set the X and Y in such a way that our interface will draw in center. If I comment this line and use hot swap, waiting for hot swap to finish, and it will pop up a window. Here we go, compiled one class. I close and I open. You see that my GUI is not centered on a screen anymore. In the Y-axis, if I have to do it for Y, I will do it for the X, and at the same time, it indicates that we will have to do it for every single time we want to draw a background. Honestly, this is a headache. So I will add some notes for myself. The way I do it in my test environments is just to come on top of the main class, and I will add to-dos here. The to-dos on the main class is actually my take note at the testing time and the things that I need to do. For example, I want to add an abstract handle the screen for the base functionality like centering the background and drawing the background image. That's my way of having notes. That's the very first thing. Now, we can start playing with this environment. So I will move it to the side, and I have to add a little space on top and bottom because now I want to test the very first thing that will be troublesome for me at least, and that is tabs. Drawing tabs is hard. Of course, I can draw a foreground, for example, as the player inventory, so I will say, actually, I will uncomment this line, and here we will have our textures. So for example, I think I have the player textures somewhere on the container, player inventory slots, and that's our player inventory slots. So I will say the container base textures dot player inventory, and for that I need the ID. Then we have the X and Y. The X will be this dot X plus here we should have something related to the container. I think I can have the handler, and from handler get player. I want this, and this is protected. Oh, it is being provided by my own API on abstract screen handler. So here's my second node to do abstract screen handler get player Y public. I will know that, hey, I want to make it public. Anyway, now at least I know that it should be 137 for time being. So I will say plus 137. The Y, I think we have that get player indicator Y, and it should be player X is 8. Okay, so I will have 8 here. And then the U and V will be from this guy. This dot U, this dot V, dot width, dot height. Then we need dot texture width and texture height. Now, the moment I hot swap this and it's finished, you will see that we have it here in the screen. This dot X plus 100. Oh, guess what? The numbers are wrong. It's 8. This one is 137. And it's again, I think that hot swap, it's way below here. What I removed this dot X, and actually, yeah, I think we need to remove them. So we are seeing it actually in place, okay? But as you see, it's a little bit offsetted. So it means that we need to add or remove an offset. So I will do it this way. The reason I'm doing it this way and not reducing a number, because the 8 and 137 will be the hard-coded numbers that will come from our libraries, but this will be a number that we need to keep. And this way I will remember the calculations and what needs to be what. And now you see that everything is sitting in place. However, the left hand side and right hand side are not looking okay. So if I move it to 7 and 6, hot swap this one, and then go here and make it 136, and again get player inventory X, return 7, hot swap again, hot swap failed, operation not supported. The reason is that I added an override, so now I need to do a debug mode run again. So I will move it to side so I can see these two side by side. And as the game is coming up, I will talk about two different things. First of all, you can find the code in Discord, and Discord's link is in the video description. I will really appreciate if you join the Discord and you will be active there, and especially if you tell about this channel to your friends and other people on Fabric Discord or any other Discord related to modding. Please help me grow this community. Now, the second thing that I want to talk about is that during the expansion of this library system, I had to go back and forth a lot. I mean, for example, on the base, today actually I moved two things here. One is our records from Jiralib, and second is our network classes. And at the same time, I had moved the cached block entity. All of these came from Jiralib into the base. Because I'm changing the base, problem is that every single library is depending on the base. So I had to remove their mavens again, and I had to remove everything from the hard drive, and I had to resync the Gradles and remove the .gradle files on each one of these classes. That was a lot. If you want to avoid something like this, first of all, instead of using Maven before you get ready, use Maven local. That's simple. I have videos about this, and you can go and watch it. Second of all, get into the habit of using a test mod and add as many things as you think you need in the test mod. Get one library up and running, and then go to the other library. Yes, chances are that when you would go back to Jiralib, you'll see that, okay, I want this or that sitting in GBase. And that's a problem again, because you have to go all the way down the rabbit hole. But that would be once or twice in the whole library system. I had gone back and forth between different libraries at least 15 times so far. So I thought to myself that, you know what, I'm inside the inventory and GUI stuff, and the base infrastructure stuff should be finished other than that tick logic, and they should be up and running. So from now on, I should be able to use a test mod. And I did make a decision. I could keep those classes inside Jiralib, but then the JiGui would be depending to Jiralib. By moving them inside GBase, now JiGui is only depending to the GBase. Okay, but from now on, I will definitely use the test mod to go one after another and test each system before moving forward. By doing that, actually, I found a very nasty bug. The bug was sitting inside block property. In block properties, I had two problems. First of all, here on the constructor, I was checking if the supplier is not null and if the get is equal to null. That would fail. So I would set the factory and ticker to null all the time. Second of all, by having a check here to see if we have the supplier or not, I was forcing the mod to use inline initialization for things like block and block entity, because when we are registering a block, we are trying to get our hand on a block entity type. And at that time, let's go back here, these guys would be null. So when I would go back into properties and I would call something like .add GUI, I had some checks here that would throw exceptions. Guess what? They would throw an exception. So I had to go back and move everything to be inline initialized so that things work. And I didn't like that. So what I did was that I removed those checks from here. Also, I'm not checking anymore about the null point here. All I'm doing is that I'm reading the block entity type, and the block entity type is doing the null check. So it will return a null. And if I fail during the runtime, this part will be null. The instantiate will fail with null point exception, directly giving me a stack trace to the class that has the problem. So far, so good. Also, I thought to myself that, you know what, I can go beyond that and make things even better. So I went back to Jiralib this time, and inside the block, I started adding some checks. For example, on get ticker. Now I have that null point exception here. I'm checking it here instead of the properties dot tick method. Also, when I'm using the block, I'm checking the null and throwing the exception here myself. Again, instead of the add GUI on the property class. For the inventory, I did debate on checking the null or not because I thought to myself that, you know what, I may want to have a block that has inventory but doesn't have any block entity. And the more I thought about it, the more it became obvious that it's not even possible. I mean, yes, if you want a single block in the whole server, that may be possible, but it's way in the opposite direction of how things work in Minecraft. If you want something unique like an inventory in a block, then effectively you are talking about a block entity. So yes, when I'm checking that the block has an inventory, now I'm checking if we are a block entity type or not, and then throwing an exception. And I did add some descriptive explanation in those exceptions so that people understand what is going on there. Anyway, by doing these tweaks, now I am able to have my attributes and then initialize them in the initialize method the way it should be without having any nasty null point exception bug. Okay, let's go back to the game and let's run the game and see what do we get. So let's go here and here. Okay, we are in place and now we are centralized on the horizontal layer. Now we can talk about adding tabs into this guy. So after the player inventory, I have a to-do here and I will put tab here because it's not a new thing. We are talking about the base block that will add the functionalities and add a method for drawing layer inventory background. And yes, it is a background, although I'm adding it in the foreground, but in reality it's a background. And don't pay attention to any of these errors. The IntelliSense is being derpy right now. Let's copy this whole thing, paste it here. If I put 0 and 0, it became obvious that in our foreground it's the top corner of our texture, not the screen anymore. The thing that I want to draw now is not the container stuff, it's the tab. And thankfully I have tab textures, and for that I did use the hierarchy of internal classes as we talked. So I want the top and the normal one, so that's the ID, and then I get this section. Let's move it down because we are drawing on top so that now we can focus on this guy. That would be the U, that would be the V, width, height, texture width, and texture height. But here, now I want to add to it the X and the Y. And yes, I know that the 0 is redundant, but whatever. Let's do the hot swap now. I know the tab will be in a wrong place, okay? But now I can figure things out. The X is in the place, but the height needs to go up as much as we have the height. So the Y should be minus the height. And let's do the hot swap. And it should sit in place exactly where I want it to. Now I will indent it with 1 pixel. So use 1, hot swap. There we go. And then I will copy this whole thing and I will paste it because now instead of normal, I want the selected. So every time I see normal, I will add selected, 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 selected. Now the thing is that if I hot swap it, it should sit here and look like the tab is being selected. Let's test it first. And it's not. So we did screw something up. Okay, basically I'm just removing this from the calculation, but I want to figure things out. Yeah, it's not in the place. Okay, what's going on here? Let's keep it there and let's add to the X. So to add to the X, I will do an addition of the width. This means that I will go 1 tab toward the right and we'll see it in action like so. Either I have the height wrong. No, it's actually 27 pixels instead of 32. 27 pixels. Let's check that one. This is the whole purpose of having a test mod, because now we want to figure things out and see how bad things are behaving. So now it's inside container, I think. Yeah. Tabs, top, selected. But I can't open it here. I need Photoshop. And let's zoom in and check if that 27 number is actually correct. It is correct. Maybe the y is wrong, -5. Okay, I will do it this way. I will start adding arbitrary numbers, for example 3, until I see this one in the correct place. 5 maybe? No, actually it's even more. 5, 2 more pixels, and now it's in place. Let's see what we are doing here. All I want is the offset. So we are adding the y, okay, that's how much? -5. So let's put a note here. We are doing this 0 plus -5, and then we are reducing the height, so minus the height of this guy, and let's have it in the other tab. The height is actually 27, and finally at the end I have to plus 7 so that it sits in the place. Instead of all this mumbo jumbo, I can say that this will be -32, actually -25. So instead of 5, if I do -25 here, like actually I can't type it here, but if I change this number to -25, then I don't need this whole mumbo jumbo. I will just say that, hey, do this, and that would be it. Okay, now that's the top side. Let's go and talk about the left side. Okay, so I will have two of these, paste, and this will be left normal ID. Now I will again start from 0, but now I know that eventually I have to minus the width, because I will start from the border I want to go toward the left, and actually I think this part should be correct this time. So this is the left one. I will keep this one as it is because it will draw on top of each other, and that's okay. Then I want the y to be 1 pixel below. Okay, I think I will reduce -1 more pixel just to make sure that, yeah, I'm in place. Let's remove this one. Let's copy this one and let's paste it. This time I want the selected one. So selected in every place. And of course, for the y, I will add the tab textures dot left dot selected dot height, so that we go down, and let's run it. And as you see, now I need to move toward the x 2 pixels, and that 2 pixels is actually, I think that's the x, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, it's 5 -5. So I need to remove back in and make it 2. So this was y. Here the x needs to be changed. So x needs to be 2, because at the end of the line we are adding 2 here. Okay, as you see, it's in place. There is 1 pixel dark border around each one of them. Okay, so this is the left. Now I can continue this in front of the monitor and do the same thing for the right and for the bottom, but the deal is the same. I will add 2 things and then tweak the numbers until I made sure that everything is working, and at that time I can finish the whole thing. Now alternatively, instead of drawing each tab myself like what I'm doing right now, we may be able to add a widget, and for that widget we will have anything we want. And I will add a little bit of space here, not here, goddammit. Here will be 51, and here actually for the x it will be 51, so that they move toward the center and they are not sitting right on the border. Anyways, this is the whole purpose of having a test environment. Between this video's stop and the next video, I need to sit back and add these textures, not only to this one user interface, but to many other blocks, and not the tabs, by the way, only the background is there. But we need to add as many textures as we have in the constant texture files on the JiGui, because one purpose here is that when Minecraft is updating and I move from the previous version to the next version, I will be able to track textures and just go into my testing environment, open the test environment, right click on a block, and take note that every texture is drawing properly. If it's not drawing properly, then you will have a problem, and I need to go and address that single texture again, because maybe Minecraft changed the name or changed the location of the texture, or maybe even they removed that texture. And basically this test environment has two purposes. One is for testing your mod the very first time, like what we are doing right now. And the second purpose is during the mod updates, and to check if textures are still in the correct position with the correct naming or not. If you like these videos, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and turn on that bell so that when I publish a new video, you will get informed. Have fun, everyone. Bye.